And now we're rolling into our last segment here, where Joe Biden is coming out pushing this abortion thing of trying to codify, however you want to say it, Roe v. Wade by Congress, and saying, hey, get out there in the midterms, vote Democrat, so that maybe we can get 60 seats and pass the filibuster and just put this thing through. So he's massively pushing this. He did a talking event, or at least a speaking event on Roe v. Wade and abortion. And now we have reporters coming in the mix right after Phil Wegman here, kind of confused about the whole idea of where he stands, because we're all confused. I did a little bit of research. I haven't really found anything concrete in terms of the legislation that he's trying to propose here of codifying Roe v. Wade, and trying to figure out, well, what's the actual specifics of it, and just watch Phil Wegman's reaction, because we're all wondering what the hell is going on. I'm sure he's frustrated. Everybody else in that press pool's frustrated, but just watch Phil's reaction, because this is a major issue here, and she is right for Americans, and we want to know what the hell's going on. Let's see how she answers it.
Thank you. I'll follow up on the first of the questions just now. Is there any chance that OMB may put out the text of whatever this legislative proposal is before, say, a Democratic majority on January 3rd of next year, that people can see exactly what the legislative language is that is being proposed here? Because the bill that they voted on Capitol Hill a couple of times, the Women's Health Protection Act, was broader than what I believe you're talking about now.
Well, as the president said, that he would send this piece of legislation, right, to Congress, and he believes Roe and its specific provisions should stand. That's what this piece of legislation that he would write, that he would send to Congress, would look like. And he's been very, very clear about this. He made that statement when the Dobbs decision was decided in June. He is very, very clear that the Roe's decision was rightly, when Roe was first put into place, that was in its form, was rightly decided, and that's what he wants to see, and that's what you're going to see he push forward.
So he has yet to write this thing, and this is what Democrats do, and just politicians in general, we see it from the right as well, is they have this general idea of something they want to push, and then they push it out there to everybody, and they talk about it without actually being specific of what's going to be in the legislation, the bill, or whatever is going to try and get passed here. And you got reporters calling out. You see Phil right there shaking his head like, yeah, we would all want to know what's going on. She's supposed to be giving us the specifics. And God, we've talked about it. She just won't freaking do it. And I know I got to stop expecting her to answer questions or giving us specifics, but that's what you would expect from somebody that's an elected official, meaning Joe Biden, her as the mouthpiece, to give the American people, because we want to know and we have a right to know. But it's just time and time again, we push through these bills, nobody knows what the hell's in them, and then you get idiotic freaking judgments or rulings down like Roe v. Wade or Dobbs or Griswold v. Connecticut or whatever the litany of other issues are that are asinine, that are just passed through wrongly. And now you got people go, well, it's been a right for 50 years. Explain that one to me. I'm still waiting for somebody to explain how Roe v. Wade was a right that was granted down, of which you can't find in the Constitution at all. And I keep saying, look, if you want that to be a right, put it in there then. Literally put it in there. Stop going, oh, well, it was a right that was granted down. You can't find it. You got that from the clerks themselves. You got that from the Supreme Court themselves, from Griswold v. Connecticut to Roe v. Wade, says you can't find it anywhere. We made it out of whole cloth. That's their job. That's Congress's job. If you want it there, then put it in there. Stop telling us that it was a right when it wasn't a right, hasn't been a right, and you can't find it anywhere. So if you want right to abortion, put it in there then. I don't want it, but stop doing this whole thing of like it was a right for 50 years, so hey, we should keep it. I mean, there's a lot of things that were rights before that should have never been rights that were overturned with amendments. So what a lame and stupid argument. Like, oh, it was there for 50 years, so we should just keep it going. Yeah, do you want to go down that talking point, Karine, of a lot of things that America had that was down there for hundreds of years, 50 plus years, that was wrong? I don't know. Should we go down that road? I don't think you want to, Karine, because you're about to get destroyed with it. The whole idea, again, of the evils of our country that was within the Supreme Court, that was there, that should have never been there in the first place. We won't go down that road, but let's continue.
In the next Congress.
I'll follow up on the student loan question that was asked a little earlier, too. The president yesterday, for those of us who were in the South Court auditorium, mentioned the concerns about the legal challenges. Is there a message to the people, the tens of millions of Americans who are signing up for this forgiveness right now, who may be eager to see it actually come into their accounts, who may face the possibility that at least for a while there's a federal judge somewhere who stops it?
This is a great question and a financial question. I always repeat this for those that are new to the Bald Brad Show. I was a public accountant. I teach personal finance. This is a massive issue for a lot of people because they're expecting this money to be relieved, right? They're expecting this debt to be forgiven, and they're going to make certain financial behavioral decisions that are going to ultimately impact having a potential of hurting them later on. Say, for example, if it's not actually forgiven, a federal judge says, hey, this is unconstitutional or it's wrong, we can't allow this, we're going to hold this up in the courts, and then you go purchase a vehicle or you take out another loan or you decide to do this or that, it can actually hurt your financials big time. And so I just want to address that this is actually a bigger question than I think really meets the eye, because we're upwards of 80% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. So this is a big, big question. Let's see how she answers it.
Look, the president is committed to this, right? This is a policy that he put forward because he wanted to give a little bit of breathing room to the American people, to the middle class. This is also a campaign promise that he wanted to keep because he knew how important it was to so many people. We're talking about almost 40 million people who are going to get borrowers, who are going to get who are going to be able to get the effects of this policy. 23 million people are going to see their debt, their college debt, already wiped away. That matters. That matters. We're talking about 90%.
Folks, I was right. If you're watching the main show here, we said in the first segment that she's going to say it matters. That matters. I thought I lost the bet. Start relinquishing the money, folks. Pay up, because we're right here in the Bald Brad Show. She did, in fact, say that matters. That matters. If you're just watching this third segment here, because we chop up the segments throughout the day, in the first segment with Peter Ducey, we made a bet saying how many of you think she's going to say that matters at some time during this press briefing. And she didn't say it in that segment. She didn't say it in the second segment, but here she is at the very end. That matters. That matters. And you got a bunch of people here that are getting screwed over. You got a bunch of truck drivers. You got those that are in blue collar work that never went to college, are making great money, and now having to pay for somebody else's college because they maybe made an asinine decision of going to lesbian dance theory rather than engineering, mathematics, accounting, whatever it may be, and having a good major, spending on this bogus major, and they're just blown away as to why they're not making six figures because they're doing underwater basket weaving. But now we're all liable for everybody else's decision making as adults. Just lovely.
Of the folks who are going to be, of the borrowers who are going to be getting this relief are making under $75,000. So he's committed to this, and he's going to make sure, do everything that we can to make this an easy process. And we've seen that already from the website. And the thing to remember, I think the question to ask, or the thing to actually really think about here, is what Republicans are trying to do. When you look at these lawsuits across the country, they're coming from Republicans. And Republicans want to take away this essential need that folks, again, 90% of these folks are making less than $75,000, who need a little bit more of a breathing room, who need an opportunity to put money down on a house, who need an opportunity to get a family started, who need an opportunity to just live their lives in a little bit easier way. And so that's the question to be asking. Why are Republicans doing this?
Easy question. I'd love to answer it, Karine. Because it's not the responsibility of the American taxpayer to relieve burdens of others that willfully and voluntarily went out to take a loan or took out debt on behalf of themselves to pay for their education. I'm not liable for it. The blue collar is not liable for it. Americans aren't liable for it. Easy answer, layup of one. Thanks for the question, Karine. But you see how we answer that one? We're very specific that we're not responsible for somebody else's debt. But for some reason, you think the taxpayers are. Nobody's for it. A lot of Americans aren't for this. And you're just constantly trying to pump the economy full of money. And this is basically, in some way, shape, or form, just increasing inflation. You might not be pumping the economy itself with more dollars by printing them, but in a nutshell, by alleviating that debt, you are in fact increasing inflation because you have more people with more money that's going to go out there and hopefully purchase something or have the possibility of taking out another loan. And by the way, just on another note here, if this is so wrong, because they were sitting there going after companies, both private but also the federal government themselves, for issuing these loans, if they were so evil, these loans, then not only why are you forgiving them, but furthermore, why are you continuing to issue these loans in the first place if they're so bad? If this hurts the American people, if they need to be alleviated so bad, then why are you continually issuing these loans to them? right as of right now, with higher interest rates, by the way, because that's what the Federal Reserve is doing. So the banks are increasing interest rates, as is the Feds. So again, my question for Karine is, if it's so evil, then why are you continuing to do it? And by the way, in about 5 years' times, a study was done that this is just going to be back up to what it was in terms of student loan debt in the trillions. So this is all bogus. It's just a ripoff. It's another way to pay for votes. But should we expect anything else from the Democrats? I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.